Welcome to our lesson number 10. The topic will be the planetary exploitation races and the creation of the Matrix. About 400 million years ago, some third-dimensional planetary races from other worlds were allowed to come to the Earth for the purpose of exploiting ores such as gold and other elements that exist in abundance here, because rarely do other places have so much diversity such as those present in our periodic table. During that process, some of those planetaries had relations with some humans who already lived here in a less evolved form compared to the current one, generating many descendants, which also generated other descendants. At the time of return of those races to their original worlds, the ones who came to rescue them could not take all the descendants due to the limited capacity of their ships that are physical, but they promised to return to rescue those who had been left behind. The return of them took a long time due to the fact that the logistics were difficult. So when they finally managed to return, the remnants had their consciousness altered because the cosmic movement that the Earth was going through at that time represented a period in which the dark forces would be attracted here. The Earth then began to vibrate an energy that ended triggering various blockages on the population's virtues. It would then be a very difficult task to bring those descendants to their original worlds because the experience from their contact with the population to other worlds could cause big disturbances. The Interstellar Council from those races met and decided that they would have to put together a plan to raise again the consciousness of those who stayed here. But unfortunately, those plans ended up failing because the longer they remained here, the less consciousness they had, to the point where there was a cancellation from that plan, for their descendants had forgotten almost completely of their moral values, having also lost their cosmic memory. A new council above the third-dimensional one, the Intergalactic Council, gathered then to work out a new plan, and so they decided to send some dimensionals from the fourth dimension of other worlds to help on that process here. But after those dimensionals had arrived, they also began to have their consciousness altered and started taking advantage of the population in a bad way, because they had more abilities and they would use them pretending to be gods, creating religions and building monuments that, instead of raising the vibration and establishing a synchronicity with the universe, they would block it even more by lowering the frequency of the population's brain activity. It was when then an even higher council, the so-called Divine Council, decided to send dimensionals from superior dimensions to the Earth and made an agreement which some divinities and gods would come cyclically here, reminding those dimensionals of their missions, and they would help to build monuments that would synchronize them with the synchronizing ray that is emitted by the central sun of the galaxy, making everyone raise their vibration and consciousness. Some of those gods and divine messengers were represented by what we can call the avatars, that is, the ones who can represent the supreme consciousness. But after some time, a part of the leadership group of those beings also decided to come to the Earth to live as humans, because they noticed that it would be easier to have a part of them acting in the matter, in the density as well, especially in times of transition of eras. Those leaders are related to the frequency of the 144,000. Some other planetary races also came to Earth, like the Anunnaki, and they joined with some others like the Greys, but most of them were kept here due to the installation of the so-called Van Allen photonic belt, name of the scientist who was able to identify it. Those races used it to manipulate the population, showing themselves on the surface. However, around 13,000 years ago, they decided to build underground bases with a kind of differentiated atmosphere, because their physical appearance had changed, since the Earth's atmosphere is different from the worlds of their origins, and that can cause certain anomalies in their bodies. They also found that the process of governing the Earth was easier without having to show themselves, because the illusionary process that people are free and they choose their own leaders makes it easy to also control the ones who wake up and disturb their Machiavellian plans. A group of 13 families was chosen to represent those races and to rule together with them. They're called Illuminati and hold the power of the economy, most major forms of media, most religions, a large number of educational institutions, most of the politics, space agencies and scientific institutes. They basically create a whole culture, philosophy and style of life so that people who question the system or create groups and movements to reveal the truth are rejected and ridiculed, just as professionals and scholars who attempt to create or use technologies that leverage the process of socio-economic freedom. Even so, there is a strategy from 49 races of the Intergalactic Confederation that have chosen to work in the process of rescuing the dimensionals, and because their consciousness and technology is so much more advanced than the one used here, it is a very intelligent plan, and they will work in a parallel way with the current vibration of the Earth, which is at a very high level at this current time, plus the energy of the synchronizing ray that is already reaching most of the population and helping them to have a better understanding of everything and get ready for a big disclosure. So through very advanced technologies and a mutual partnership established with groups of trained dimensionals here that are aware of those 49 races and can interact physically with them, a new consciousness will emerge, and in time a new civilization will rise and people will be able to transmute to positive most of the negativity that is still present in this world. The Matrix is still planning to create a lot of chaos, taking advantage of the movements of the nature that happen during the shift of electromagnetic poles of the Earth. So the sensation of the duality might increase very much, and it's like people will have to choose what side they are really vibrating on, like the separation of the wheat and the chaff, but as the wheat being the one who are still asleep and agree directly or indirectly with the agenda of the establishment. So symbolically, they are the wheat because they follow the recipe of the system. The chaff are the ones who are considered different and that are here to change and to show the truth to the world, and some will work as intermediaries for the 49 races to present themselves to the population, bringing whatever is necessary for the dignity of all, especially on times of emergency that might be generated by the government of chaos. So the more people that get informed by this situation, the better. Even if at first they might think that this is something crazy, in the near future they will probably remember all of it and everything will make sense, and even the ones who defamed the people who tried to advise them about what was really going on will also be benefited by the big change that we will experience in all levels. So all this information is like a seed that we can plant in the mind of whoever has at least a small interest on some topics related to all of that. And in the proper time, this seed will grow and transform itself into something essential to comprehend the reality and the whole transition we are going through. So now let's go to our exercise, and we will learn about the active neutral gene activation and vibratory stabilization. There are many ways to activate and to modulate the energy of the mutant genes that we have and that exist in the genetics of the Adamic race. One of the ways is to receive a photonic activation through a light that comes from a spaceship that flashes in the sky when we generate the frequency to observe it and to provoke the phenomenon. And that we can do by going to a place in the nature, and maybe even a garden that we have in our home where it's possible to see the sky. So then we can rub our hands, close our left hand, breathe in and hold until we can, keep our left hand closed, and after that we have to mentalize a light that can be moving or still in the sky that will flash for a certain period of time and for a certain sequence. When we see the first flash, we have to rub our hands again and put the index and the ring finger on our temples and massage a little for 5 seconds so we can better absorb that light. And it is that simple. That spaceship is called the NGA, and it means the Neutral Gene Activation 1, because the genes related to the next race that we are to transit to are called neutral. So instead of having our genetics coding called DNA, we will have it called NGA. Another exercise that we can do is to provoke the phenomenon of what we call a canapla. Canapla is a technology that looks very similar to a shooting star. star, but the distance is more or less like from an airplane or even closer, so that's how we can differentiate it. And the sightseeing of that phenomenon can serve to stabilize our vibratory field, especially if it appears with a silver color. So to observe the canopla, we have to again rub our hands, close our left hand, breathe in, hold until we can, keep our left hand closed, and mentalize a light like a shooting star crossing the sky in a natural environment or in a garden that is possible to see the sky. You can repeat those exercises as many times as you wish and also show to other people that might be interested on that, and you can observe both phenomena at a very short period of time and maybe even more than one at a time. That also means that you have activated the frequency to interact with parallel realities on that specific place and that you have achieved that frequency yourself. And it's also that simple. That's it for now, and I see you on our next class.